Captain Zaylan stood on the bridge of her ship and stared at the empty space. She could not believe what the screens were telling her. The star system was gone. Completely gone. Her crew members looked at each other with worried faces. They had traveled for 3 months to reach this place. The Galactic Concordat had sent them here to investigate strange readings. But nobody expected this. The Sol system had vanished. The yellow star that humans called their sun was not there anymore. The 8 planets that once circled it were missing. Even the asteroid belt and the small rocks floating in space had disappeared. There was only darkness and empty space where a whole star system should be. Zaylan was from the Valorian species. Her people had been exploring space for thousands of years. They had seen many strange things in the galaxy. But they had never seen anything like this. Star systems did not just disappear. It was impossible. Or at least it should be impossible. She turned to her science officer. His name was Korth, and he was very good at his job. He had 4 arms and blue skin. His large eyes were fixed on his instruments. "What do you see?" Zaylan asked him. "Energy readings," Korth said quietly. His voice shook a little. "Very strange energy readings. The space here is not normal. Something powerful happened here. Something that bent the laws of physics." Zaylan felt cold fear in her chest. She had read the old reports about humans. They were a young species. They had only started traveling between stars about 200 years ago. They had made contact with the Concordat and seemed friendly enough. But then something changed. About 50 years ago, humans stopped talking to other species. They refused meetings. They closed their borders. They told everyone to stay away from their space. The Concordat had sent diplomats, but humans sent them back without explanation. They just said they wanted to be alone. After that, humans became more and more secretive. Ships that tried to visit their system were turned away. Sometimes scout ships reported seeing strange construction around human planets, giant structures in space. But nobody knew what they were building or why. Then one day, all contact stopped. Human ships stopped leaving their space. Their communication signals went silent. The Concordat had debated what to do. Some wanted to investigate. Others said they should respect human wishes and leave them alone. They waited. They decided to give humans time. Maybe they were going through some internal problem. Maybe they would come back when they were ready. But now the wait was over. Because there was nothing left to wait for. "Send probes into the empty space," Zaylan ordered. "I want detailed scans of everything. Look for any trace of what happened here." The crew worked quickly. Small probe ships launched from their vessel and moved into the area where the Sol system used to be. The probes sent back information that made no sense. "The space is torn," Korth reported. "Like fabric that has been ripped. But it is healing. Very slowly, but it is closing up. Whatever made this hole in space, it was incredibly powerful." "Could they have destroyed themselves?" asked the pilot. Her name was Mira, and she was young. "Maybe they tested some weapon and it went wrong?" Zaylan shook her head slowly. "If they destroyed themselves, we would see debris. We would see radiation. We would see something. But there is nothing here. They did not die. They left? Where could an entire star system go?" Mira asked. Nobody had an answer to that question. Zaylan let her crew work in silence for a while. She thought about humans. She had met a few of them, many years ago before they closed their borders. They were strange creatures. Not very strong physically, not very long-lived compared to most species. But they were clever. Very clever. And they were stubborn. Other species in the Concordat had always been a little nervous around humans. There was something about them that was hard to predict. They could be kind and generous, but they could also be fierce when threatened. They had emotions that ran very deep. Joy, anger, love, hate. These feelings drove them to do incredible things. Sometimes good things, sometimes terrible things. Zaylan had heard old stories from her grandmother. Stories about species that had tried to conquer Earth long ago, before humans joined the Concordat. Those invaders had been confident. They had better weapons and faster ships. They thought humans would surrender quickly. They were wrong. Humans fought like demons. They refused to give up even when they were losing. They used tactics that other species found disturbing. They would sacrifice their own lives to take down enemies. They would fight with broken weapons and damaged ships. They turned their cities into fortresses and their people into soldiers. The invaders eventually left, not because they could not win, but because the cost of winning was too high. Humans would make them pay for every meter of ground, every building, every planet. The invaders decided it was not worth it. After that, most species learned to respect humans. They were admitted to the Concordat as equals. For a while, everything was peaceful. Humans traded with other species. They shared their music and art and stories. They seemed happy to be part of the galactic community. But then they changed. Or maybe they had been planning something all along. Nobody knew for sure. "Captain," Korth called out suddenly, "I have found something. There is a message. It was left here, floating in space. It is very faint, but I can decode it." Zaylen moved quickly to his station. "Show me." Korth pressed some buttons and words appeared on the screen. They were written in the common galactic language. The message was short. "To whoever finds this place, we have not died. We have not been destroyed. We have chosen to leave. Do not look for us. We will return when we are ready. Until then, this space is empty. Stay safe, friends from the stars. Goodbye." The bridge was silent. Everyone stared at the message. Zaylen felt her hearts beating fast. She had two hearts like all Valorians. "They took everything," Mira whispered. "The sun, the planets, the moons, the asteroids. How is that even possible?" Korth was checking his instruments again. His forearms moved quickly over the controls. "Captain, the energy reading suggests something incredible. I think they created a pocket dimension, a space inside space. They put their entire star system inside it and sealed it off from our universe." "That is impossible," said another crew member. "The energy required would be enormous. No species has that kind of power. Not even the ancient ones who built the Great Gates." "Humans did it," Zaylen said quietly. "Somehow they found a way. They hid their entire home system in another dimension." "But why?" Mira asked. "Why would they do this?" Zaylen thought about that question for a long time. Finally, she spoke. "Maybe they were afraid," she said. "Or maybe they were planning something. Something big. Something that required time and secrecy." She looked at the empty space on the screen. The place where Earth used to be was now just darkness and strange energy. "The message said they will return when they are ready," Korth said. "What do you think they are preparing for?" Zaylen did not answer. She did not know. But she felt a strange feeling in her chest. It was not quite fear, but it was close. Humans were unpredictable. They were clever and determined, and now they had power enough to move their entire star system to another dimension. What would they be like when they returned? "Record everything," Zaylen ordered. "Every scan, every reading, every piece of data. The Concordat needs to know about this. They need to know that humans are gone and they took their whole world with them." The crew worked for hours gathering all the information they could. When they were done, Zaylen ordered them to mark the empty space. They left a beacon there, a warning to other ships. The beacon would tell anyone who came near that this place was special. This was where Earth used to be. This was the Sol Void. As their ship turned to leave, Zaylen took one last look at the empty space. Somewhere out there, beyond normal space and time, humans were hidden. They were doing something, building something, preparing for something. She just hoped that when they came back, they would still be friends. But deep in her heart, she was not sure. 1,000 years passed in the galaxy. For most species, it was a very long time. Empires rose and fell. New civilizations learned to travel between the stars. Old civilizations faded away. The galactic Concordat grew bigger. When Earth disappeared, there were 47 member species. Now there were more than 200. The galaxy was busier than ever. Trade routes connected thousands of worlds. Great cities floated in space. Knowledge and culture flowed freely between species. But not everything was peaceful. Wars still happened. Some species fought over resources. Others fought over ideas or old grudges. The Concordat tried to keep peace, but they could not stop every conflict. As the centuries passed, people talked less and less about Earth. The story of the missing human homeworld became a legend. Parents told it to their children as a strange tale from the old days. Scientists studied the Sol Void, but they found nothing new. The empty space remained empty. The strange energy readings slowly faded away. Some species still remembered humans clearly. The Valorians kept detailed records. So did a few other long-lived races. They remembered what humans were like. They remembered the warning in the message. "We will return when we are ready." But most young species had never met a human. To them, humans were just another extinct race. There were many of those in galactic history. Species that destroyed themselves or disappeared for unknown reasons. One more did not seem special. The Concordat posted warnings around the Sol Void. Ships were not supposed to enter the area. But as time went on, fewer ships bothered to visit. There was nothing there to see. Just empty space and old legends. Then, about 300 years after Earth vanished, something new began in the galaxy. A species called the Krell started conquering their neighbors. The Krell were large and strong. They had powerful weapons and many ships. At first, the Concordat was not worried. Small wars happened sometimes. But the Krell did not stop. They kept attacking. They took over one system, then another, then another. They were building an empire. The Krell called themselves the Hierarchy. They said they were creating a perfect galaxy. They believed strong species should rule over weak ones. They thought the Concordat was foolish for treating all species as equals. The Concordat tried to negotiate. They sent diplomats to talk with the Hierarchy leaders. But the Krell laughed at them. They said words were for the weak. Power was what mattered. And they had power. War came to the galaxy. It was not a small war. It was huge. The Hierarchy attacked many worlds at once. Their fleets were massive. Their weapons were devastating. Planet after planet fell to them. The Concordat fought back. They gathered their forces and tried to stop the Hierarchy advance. There were great battles in space. Thousands of ships clashed. Millions of beings died, but the Hierarchy kept winning. They had been preparing for this war for a long time. They had secret weapons. They had ships that could destroy entire fleets. They had bombs that could crack planets. Slowly, the Concordat began to lose. Their territory shrank. More and more worlds surrendered to the Hierarchy. Some species joined the Hierarchy willingly, hoping to be on the winning side. Others fought until they were destroyed. As the war dragged on, the Hierarchy expanded in all directions. They pushed deeper and deeper into Concordat space. They were ruthless. Worlds that resisted were punished severely. Entire populations were enslaved or wiped out. The ancient species in the Concordat, the ones who remembered Earth, began to worry. The Hierarchy was spreading toward the old territories, toward the empty spaces where humans once lived. Some of these elders spoke warnings. They remembered humans. They remembered that humans had hidden themselves for a reason. They wondered if disturbing the Sol Void was a good idea. But the young races laughed at these warnings. They called them superstitions. Old fears from a forgotten time. The Sol Void was just empty space. There was nothing there to fear. The Hierarchy leaders heard about the Sol Void. They were curious. Their scientists studied the old reports. They read about the strange energy readings. They learned about the vanished star system. The Hierarchy decided the Sol Void would make a good military base. It was in a strategic location. It was empty, so they would not have to fight anyone for it. And the space was large enough for their biggest fleets. They sent construction ships to the area. They built stations at the edge of the void. They gathered their war fleets there. Thousands of Hierarchy ships surrounded the empty space where Earth once was. The old species protested. Valorian ambassadors came before the Concordat Council. They warned that this was dangerous. They said the Hierarchy should stay away from the Sol Void, but the Concordat was too weak to do anything. They were losing the war. They could not afford to worry about old legends. They had real problems to deal with. Living enemies, not ghosts from the past. The Hierarchy grew stronger every year. Their empire covered half the galaxy. They built massive weapons. Planet destroyers, star killers. Weapons so powerful that whole systems could be erased. They spoke of their vision for the perfect galaxy. All species would serve the Hierarchy. The strong would rule. The weak would obey. Order would replace chaos. Unity would replace diversity. Many species submitted. They had no choice. The alternative was destruction. Better to be slaves than dead. The Hierarchy offered survival, even if it came with chains. The Concordat kept fighting, but they were dying. Every battle cost them more than they could afford. Their strongest fleets had been destroyed. Their best worlds had fallen. They were running out of time. It was in the 1000th year after Earth's disappearance that the Hierarchy launched their largest offensive. They called it the Final Campaign. They planned to crush the Concordat once and for all. They gathered their greatest armada at the edge of the Sol Void. 10,000 warships, 50 planet destroyers, 100 carrier ships full of fighters. It was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. The Concordat knew this was the end. They sent their last major fleet to try to stop the Hierarchy. It was a desperate move. They knew they would probably lose. But they had to try. The two fleets met near the Sol Void. The battle was enormous. Ships fired on each other from thousands of kilometers away. Energy beams lit up the darkness. Missiles streaked through space. Ships exploded in bright flashes. The Concordat fought bravely, but they were outnumbered. The hierarchy was winning. Their commanders laughed as they watched Concordat ships burn. They sent messages to their homeworlds. Victory is near. The galaxy will soon be ours. And then, in the middle of the battle, something strange happened. The space at the center of the Sol Void began to shimmer. Sensors across both fleets detected massive energy readings, energy levels that should not be possible. Both sides stopped fighting. Everyone stared at their screens. The energy was growing stronger. Space itself was bending. Reality was tearing open. And then light burst from the empty darkness. Not the light of stars or explosions. Something different. Something that hurt to look at. Light that seemed to come from somewhere else. Somewhere beyond normal space, the light faded. And there, in the empty space where nothing had been for 1,000 years, was the Sol system. Earth had returned. The sun burned bright. The planets were in their orbits. Everything looked exactly as it had 1,000 years ago, but something was different. The sun's light was wrong. It was too bright, too powerful. The planets gleamed with strange lights. And from the moon came a signal, a message broadcast on all frequencies. In every language known to the galaxy, the voice was calm and clear. Humanity requests non-interference. This is your only warning. Both fleets froze. Weapons stopped firing. Ships drifted in stunned silence. After 1,000 years, Earth was back, and everything was about to change. Admiral Croth of the hierarchy stared at his screens. His massive hand gripped the arm of his command chair. He could not believe what he was seeing. The Sol system had appeared from nowhere. One moment there was empty space. The next moment, 8 planets and a star existed where nothing had been for centuries. His sensors could barely process what they were detecting. All ships report, he growled into his communicator. Status. His officers called back from across the massive fleet. Systems are failing, Admiral. The energy pulse damaged our computers. We are working on repairs. Every ship in both fleets, hierarchy and Concordat alike, had been hit by the wave of energy. Nothing was destroyed, but everything was disrupted. Weapons were offline. Shields were down. Even basic navigation was struggling. Croth looked at the image of Earth on his main screen. The small blue planet floated peacefully in space. It looked harmless, but appearances could lie. The message from the humans kept repeating. Humanity requests non-interference. This is your only warning, a warning. Croth felt anger rising in his chest. The hierarchy did not take warnings from anyone. They were the ones who gave warnings. They were the strongest power in the galaxy. These humans had been gone for 1,000 years. They had no idea what they were facing. Sir, one of his officers said nervously, perhaps we should wait. Let them explain themselves. Maybe contact our high command. Croth turned his head to glare at the officer. His eyes were cold. Are you afraid? He asked quietly. The officer swallowed. No, sir, but we know nothing about them. They have been gone for so long. We do not know what they are capable of. They hid like cowards, Croth said. That tells me everything I need to know. They ran away from the galaxy because they were weak. Now they return and think they can give us orders. Send fighters. I want those planets scanned. Find out what defenses they have, but sir, the warning, do it now. The officer obeyed. Orders went out across the fleet. Fighter ships launched from the carriers. Hundreds of small, fast ships moved toward the Sol system. They flew in formation, weapons ready. On the other side of the battlefield, the Concordat fleet watched in horror. Their admiral was old. She had seen many battles. She recognized suicide when she saw it. Pull our ships back, she ordered. Move away from the Sol system. Whatever happens next, I do not want us caught in it. The Concordat ships began to retreat slowly. They were damaged and could not move fast, but they tried to put distance between themselves and the humans. Croth watched the hierarchy fighters approach Earth. They were getting close now. Their sensors scanned the planets. They sent back information. Strange readings, a science officer reported. The planets are not normal. They are covered in structures we cannot identify. Technology we have never seen. And the moon? The moon is not a moon. What do you mean? Croth demanded. The officer checked his instruments again. His hands were shaking. The moon is artificial, sir. It is a machine. A very large machine. And it is opening. On all the screens, everyone watched as Earth's moon split apart, not destroyed. Opening. Like a flower blooming. The gray surface peeled back in perfect sections. Underneath was something else. Something that gleamed with impossible light. It was a weapon. Even someone with no military training could see that. The thing inside the moon was designed to destroy. But it was like no weapon anyone had ever seen before. Recall the fighters, Croth shouted. Suddenly he was afraid. Real fear, something he had not felt in years. Get them back here now. But it was too late. The weapon inside the moon activated. There was no flash, no explosion, no warning. Just a thin beam of light that shot out from the moon and touched the fighter formation. The fighters vanished. All of them. Hundreds of ships and thousands of crew members gone in an instant. Not destroyed. Not scattered, just gone. Erased from existence as if they had never been there. The beam did not stop. It swept across space toward Croth's fleet. Ships tried to move out of the way, but they were too damaged. Their engines were still recovering from the energy pulse. The beam touched the first line of warships. 10 massive battleships, each one capable of destroying a city. They disappeared. The beam moved to the next line. 20 cruisers, gone. The beam kept going. Croth could only watch as his fleet was erased. Ship after ship. Thousands of beings. Decades of construction. Billions of credits spent on weapons and armor. None of it mattered. The beam moved through them like they were made of air. Then, just as suddenly as it started, the beam stopped. The weapon in the moon powered down. The surface closed again, hiding the weapon inside. The moon looked normal once more, as if nothing had happened. Croth looked at what was left of his fleet. More than half of it was gone. 10,000 ships had been in this system. Now there were less than 4,000. The greatest armada in hierarchy history had been cut in half in less than a minute. The message from Earth came again. This time the voice was different. Still calm, but there was steel underneath it. We gave you a warning. You chose not to listen. Your ships entered our space after we asked you to stay away. We removed them. We could remove the rest. We could remove all of you. But we would prefer not to. We did not return to make war. We returned to make sure there is peace. The voice paused. When it spoke again, everyone in both fleets listened carefully. We know about your empire. We know about your conquests. We know what you have done to those who could not defend themselves. We watched it all. We saw everything, and we decided we could not stay hidden any longer. Croth found his voice. He activated his own communicator. Who are you to judge us? He shouted. The hierarchy brings order to chaos. We make the galaxy better, stronger. There was silence. Then the human voice responded. We are the ones with the power to stop you. That is who we are. You asked for non-interference. You wanted to build your perfect galaxy. But your perfect galaxy requires the suffering of billions. We cannot allow that. Croth felt rage building inside him. You are just one species, one small system. We have thousands of worlds, millions of ships. You cannot stop the hierarchy. We will come back with everything we have and destroy you. The human voice was quiet for a moment. Then it said something that made everyone listening feel cold. Please do not make us demonstrate our full capabilities. What you just witnessed was a warning, a small fraction of what we can do. If you force us to defend ourselves completely, there will be nothing left of your empire. Nothing at all. Not your ships, not your worlds, not even the memory of you. Croth opened his mouth to reply, but no words came out. He looked at his screens, at the empty space where his ships had been, at the small blue planet that had just cut his fleet in half without effort. He remembered the old stories. Stories from 1,000 years ago about humans, about how they fought when threatened, about how they never surrendered. He had thought those stories were exaggerations, propaganda from species who wanted to seem brave. Now he understood. The stories were not exaggerations. If anything, they did not go far enough. Humans had not run away because they were weak. They had hidden themselves because they were dangerous. They had taken 1,000 years to become something far beyond what anyone expected. The human voice spoke one more time. We will send representatives to speak with both the hierarchy and the Concordat. We have much to discuss. Until then, all ships should leave this system. This space belongs to humanity. We have returned home, and we intend to stay. Across both fleets, commanders looked at each other. Nobody knew what to do. The situation had changed so completely, so quickly. 1,000 years of galactic politics had just been rewritten in minutes. Croth gave the order that hurt his pride more than any wound. All ships retreat. Pull back to the border. We are leaving. The hierarchy fleet began to withdraw. Ships limped away from the Sol system, damaged and demoralized. The greatest military force in the galaxy was running away from a single star system. The Concordate fleet left too. They moved carefully, expecting another attack at any moment. But nothing happened. The humans let them go. As the last ships jumped to faster than light speed and left the area, Earth floated quietly in space. The blue planet looked peaceful once again. But now everyone in the galaxy knew the truth. Humanity had returned. And they had power beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. The meeting took place on a neutral station. It was an old Concordate facility that floated in empty space, far from any sun. The station was chosen because it belonged to no one and threatened no one. Ambassador Chen walked through the corridor with calm steps. She was human, but she looked almost exactly like humans from 1,000 years ago. Same height, same build, same basic features. The only difference was in her eyes. They seemed to see everything, understand everything. Behind her walked two other humans. They carried no weapons. They wore simple clothes. They looked harmless. But everyone who saw them felt a strange sensation. Power. These three humans radiated power like a star radiates heat. The meeting room was large. On one side sat representatives from the Concordate, dozens of species all watching nervously. On the other side sat representatives from the hierarchy. They tried to look strong and confident, but their eyes showed fear. Ambassador Chen sat down at the head of the table. She looked around the room slowly, meeting eyes with each representative. Then she spoke. Thank you all for coming. I know you have many questions. We will answer what we can. But first, let me explain where humanity has been and what we have done. She touched a device on the table. Above them, a holographic image appeared. It showed the Sol system as it was 1,000 years ago. 1,000 years ago, we made a choice. We saw the direction the galaxy was heading. We saw conflicts growing. We saw species fighting over resources and territory. We knew that eventually a great war would come. We could feel it. A Valorian ambassador leaned forward. She was old, one of the few who remembered humans personally. So you ran away? She asked. You abandoned the rest of us? Chen shook her head slightly. We did not run. We made a strategic choice. Humanity was still young, still developing. We had potential, but we were not ready to face what was coming. We needed time. Time to grow. Time to advance. Time to prepare. The hologram changed. It showed Earth being wrapped in strange energy. Then the entire solar system being pulled into a glowing portal. We created a pocket dimension, a bubble of space-time separate from normal reality. We moved our entire star system into it. Inside that bubble, time flowed differently. For every year that passed in the galaxy, 10 years passed inside our pocket dimension. Gasps ran around the room. The mathematics of that were staggering. 1,000 years outside meant 10,000 years inside. A hierarchy representative stood up. His name was General Vex. He was angry. 10,000 years? He said loudly. You had 10,000 years to develop while the rest of us struggled? That is not fair. That is cheating. Chen looked at him calmly. Is it cheating to be smart? We did not break any laws. We did not steal from anyone. We used our own resources and our own genius to find a way to survive. If your species could have done the same, would you have? Vex had no answer to that. He sat down slowly, his face red with anger and embarrassment. Chen continued. Inside our pocket dimension, we worked. We studied, we built, we advanced our technology in ways that would have been impossible if we stayed in normal space. We had time to experiment, time to fail and try again, time to perfect our designs. The hologram showed cities growing on Earth, structures being built in space, ships unlike anything anyone had seen, technology that seemed to bend the laws of physics. We developed dimensional technology. We learned to manipulate space and time. We created energy sources that tap into the fabric of reality itself. We built ships that can travel faster than light in ways you cannot imagine. We designed weapons that can unmake matter at the quantum level. But more important than technology, we grew as a people. We solved our own conflicts. We learned to live in peace with ourselves. We eliminated poverty, disease, and want. We achieved what many call a post-scarcity civilization. Everyone has what they need. No one suffers from lack. A Concordate representative spoke up. She was young and curious. If you achieve paradise, why come back? Why not stay hidden forever? Chen smiled sadly. Because we could not ignore what was happening outside. We were hidden, but we could still observe the galaxy. We saw the wars. We saw the suffering. We saw the hierarchy conquering world after world. We saw species being enslaved or destroyed. She stood up and walked to the window. Outside, stars glowed in the darkness. We had a debate that lasted for decades. Some humans said we should stay hidden. It was not our problem. Let the galaxy solve its own issues. But others said we had a responsibility. We had power. We had the ability to help. And if we could help but chose not to, what did that make us? She turned back to face the room. In the end, we decided to return. Not as conquerors, not as rulers, but as protectors. We will not tell you how to live. We will not force our ways on you. But we will not allow the strong to destroy the weak. We will not permit genocide. We will not watch while innocents suffer. General Vex stood up again. And if we refuse? If the hierarchy continues on our path? Will you destroy us? Chen met his eyes. We hope it does not come to that. We truly do. We would rather be friends than enemies. But understand this clearly. We returned because the hierarchy threatens to destroy the diversity and freedom of this galaxy. If you continue your conquests, we will stop you. We have the power to do so, and we will use it if we must. The room was silent. Everyone was thinking about what they had seen. The weapon in the moon. The ships erased from existence. The casual display of impossible power. The Valorian ambassador spoke again. What exactly are you proposing? What do you want from us? Chen returned to her seat. We propose a sphere of protection. 100 light years around Earth. Within that sphere, we will enforce peace. No wars, no conquests, no oppression. Any species within that sphere can live in safety. Any species outside can choose to enter and receive our protection. Outside that sphere, we will not interfere with normal galactic politics. We will not tell you how to govern yourselves. We will not force our culture on you, but if we detect genocide, if we see extinction-level events, we will act. We will save those who cannot save themselves. A small species representative spoke nervously. What about technology? Will you share your advances with us? Chen nodded. We will share some technology. Medical advances that can save lives. Energy systems that are clean and sustainable. Agricultural methods that can feed billions. But we will not share weapons. We will not give you the power to destroy each other more efficiently. General Vex slammed his hand on the table. This is unacceptable. You cannot just appear after 1,000 years and dictate terms. You are not gods. You are just one species, one system. Chen looked at him steadily. You are correct. We are not gods. We are just humans. But we have the power to back up our words. You saw what happened to your fleet. That was a warning, a demonstration. We eliminated half your armada with a single weapon and we barely tried. She leaned forward. General, let me be very clear. We know everything about your empire. We watched you grow. We saw every battle, every conquest, every crime. We have records of everything. If you force us to act, we will not just defeat your military. We will show your own people what you have done. We will broadcast the truth to every world in your empire. Vex went pale. You would not dare, we would prefer not to. But if you give us no choice, we will. Your empire is built on lies and propaganda. Your citizens believe they are bringing order to chaos. They do not know about the millions you have killed, the worlds you have burned, the species you have exterminated. We will show them the truth, and your empire will collapse from within. The hierarchy representatives looked at each other. Fear showed clearly on their faces now. They understood. Humanity had not just advanced technologically. They had watched. They had recorded. They knew everything. The concordant representatives were quiet too. They were relieved that someone could finally stand up to the hierarchy, but they were also worried. What would it be like to live in a galaxy where humans had so much power? Chen stood up. You do not have to answer now. Go back to your governments. Tell them what you heard. Think about what we have said. We will give you time to decide. But know this. We are not leaving. We are not hiding again. Earth is back and we are here to stay. She walked toward the door, then paused and turned back. One more thing. We hope you will see us as friends. We hope you will work with us to build a better galaxy. But whether you are our friends or not, we will protect those who need protection. That is not a threat. That is a promise. The three humans left the room. Behind them, representatives from across the galaxy sat in stunned silence. Everything had changed. The balance of power had shifted completely. Humanity had returned. And the galaxy would never be the same. 3 months passed after the meeting. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. Everyone expected war. The hierarchy had never backed down from anyone. Surely they would gather their full strength and attack Earth. They did. The hierarchy high command ordered a massive mobilization. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon. They would crush these upstart humans and remind the galaxy who ruled. The armada was enormous. 50,000 warships, 100 planet destroyers, weapons that could crack worlds, bombs that could ignite stars. The hierarchy brought everything they had. They came to Earth in a show of overwhelming force. They surrounded the Sol system. Their commander sent a message. Surrender now or we will destroy you. Earth did not surrender, but Earth also did not attack. Instead, humanity did something unexpected, something that changed everything. They broadcast a message, not to the hierarchy military, not to the commanders in their ships, to everyone, to every being in the hierarchy empire, to every citizen on every world, to every soldier on every ship. The message appeared on every screen, every communicator, every device. It could not be blocked or stopped. Humans had such advanced technology that they could bypass every security system, every filter, every barrier. And the message showed the truth. 10,000 years of recordings. Battles where the hierarchy slaughtered civilians. Worlds where they destroyed entire ecosystems. Species that they hunted to extinction. Children torn from parents. Families destroyed. Cultures erased. The recordings were undeniable. They showed hierarchy leaders laughing as they ordered massacres. They showed generals celebrating as planets burned. They showed the lies that were told to the people. The propaganda that hid the truth. The message spoke in a clear voice. Citizens of the hierarchy empire, this is humanity. We do not wish to fight you. We do not hate you. But your leaders have committed terrible crimes. They have told you lies. They said they were bringing order, but they brought death. They said they were creating perfection, but they created suffering. The voice paused. Then it continued. We show you this not to shame you, not to make you feel guilty. We show you this so you can make a choice, a real choice. You can continue to follow leaders who lie and kill, or you can choose something different. You can choose peace. You can choose freedom. The decision is yours. Across the hierarchy empire, people watched. Soldiers in ships, workers in factories, families in homes. Everyone saw the recordings. Everyone learned the truth. And they were horrified. Many had suspected something was wrong, but they had never seen proof. They had never known the full extent of the crimes. Now they knew, and they could not unknow it. On the ships surrounding Earth, crews started to question their orders. Why were they attacking Earth? What had humans done to them? Nothing. Humanity was trying to stop the killing. Maybe the humans were right. One ship mutinied, then another, then dozens, then hundreds. Crews arrested their commanders. Ships refused to fire their weapons. The great armada began to fall apart from inside. On hierarchy worlds, protests began. Small at first, then larger, then massive. Millions of people in the streets. They demanded answers. They demanded change. They demanded that the killing stop. The high command tried to restore order. They sent troops to crush the protests, but the troops refused to fight. They had families in those crowds. They had seen the recordings too. They would not kill their own people for lies. Within weeks, the hierarchy empire fractured. Worlds declared independence. Fleets split apart. The government tried to hold on, but it was too late. The truth had destroyed them more completely than any weapon could. Earth watched as the empire collapsed. Humanity did not attack. They did not invade. They simply waited. They had promised they would only intervene to prevent extinction-level events. A government falling was not their concern. People choosing freedom was something they would support, not stop. When the dust settled, the galaxy looked very different. The hierarchy was gone. In its place were dozens of independent worlds. Some formed new alliances. Some joined the Concordat. Some chose to be alone for a while to heal and rebuild. Earth announced the Terran boundary, 100 light-years in all directions from the Sol system. Within this sphere, humanity would enforce peace. Any species could live there in safety. Any conflict would be stopped. Any threat would be removed. Many species accepted the offer. They moved their worlds into the boundary zone. They wanted the protection. They wanted the peace. Life within the boundary was good. Trade flourished. Culture bloomed. People were safe, but some species stayed outside. They valued their independence too much. They did not want human protection, even if it meant safety. They would take their chances with freedom rather than accept a guardian. Humanity respected that choice. They did not force anyone to accept their protection. The boundary was an offer, not a command. Those who wanted safety could have it. Those who wanted independence could keep it. Earth began sharing technology, medical treatments that extended life and cured diseases, energy systems that provided clean, unlimited power, agricultural methods that could feed billions, construction techniques that made building cities easier and cheaper. But true to their word, humans did not share weapons. They did not give other species the ability to wage war more effectively. They shared tools of creation, not destruction. The galaxy began to change. Poverty decreased. Hunger faded. Medical care improved. The technology humans shared was making life better for billions of beings. And humans asked for nothing in return. No tribute. No loyalty. Just that species try to live in peace. Of course, not everything was perfect. There were still conflicts. Pirates raided ships. Criminals operated on the edges of civilization. Small wars broke out between minor powers. Humanity could not stop everything, but the major threats were gone. No empire rose to conquer the galaxy. No species attempted genocide. The fear of human intervention kept the worst impulses in check. Most beings learned to resolve their conflicts peacefully, knowing that if they went too far, Earth would notice. Admiral Sarah Park stood on the bridge of her ship. It was a human vessel, sleek and powerful. She was young by human standards, only 80 years old. Humans lived much longer now. 200 years was common. She was staring at a screen showing a star map. Her science officer approached. "Admiral, we have confirmed the readings. Another vanished civilization. The energy signature matches what our sun left when we departed." Park nodded slowly. "Where?" The officer pointed to a section of the map. "Andromeda Galaxy. They disappeared about 5,000 years ago. A species called the Architects. They were very advanced, and now they are gone just like we were." Park felt a chill. She knew what this meant. Another species had done what humanity did. Hidden themselves in a pocket dimension. Spent thousands of years advancing, but why? Were they like humans, trying to prepare themselves to protect others? Or did they have a different purpose? There was no way to know until they returned. If they returned, should we send a probe? The officer asked. Park thought about it. "No," she said finally. "If they are like us, they will return when they are ready. We should not disturb them, but monitor the area. Watch for any changes, and prepare our people. If another advanced species appears, we need to be ready." "Ready for what?" the officer asked. Park looked at the distant stars. "Ready for anything. We came back to protect our neighbors, to ensure peace and safety. But what if someone else is coming back for a different reason? What if they return not as guardians, but as conquerors?" The officer was quiet. Then he said, "We will face that when it comes. If it comes. For now, we have done what we set out to do. The galaxy is safer. People can live without fear. That is enough." Park smiled slightly. "You are right. We cannot worry about every possible threat. We can only do our best with what we know. And right now, we know the galaxy needs us to be here, to be watchful, to be ready to help." She turned away from the screen. "Continue monitoring. Let me know if anything changes. And send a message to Earth. They should know about this." As her officer left to carry out the orders, Park looked out the window at the stars. Humanity had been gone for 1,000 years. They had returned with power beyond comprehension. They had changed the galaxy for the better, but the universe was vast, and humanity was still learning, still growing, still facing new challenges. Somewhere out there, another species was hidden, another civilization was advancing. Another power was growing in the shadows. Park did not know if they would be friends or enemies. She did not know if they would bring peace or war. But she knew one thing for certain. When that day came, when another vanished civilization returned, humanity would be ready. They had not hidden themselves and advanced for 10,000 years just to fail when they were needed most. Earth had returned. And Earth would stand, no matter what came next.